what you ask me to do, that you know I won't do for anybody but you. I'm okay even when I've been crying, and you know I'd be lying if I said I don't cry for you. But I'm smiling at the top of my game, you don't see it the same, but I've got my eye on a prize bigger than you calling my name. And at the end of the day, I want you to rely on me. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Welcome to The Barn Live, coming to you today from our Milwaukee studio. Thank you for joining us today. We're here with local musician and Milwaukee mainstay who has a new album coming out on June 2nd, Andrew David Weber. How are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this a lot. Really glad you asked me.
Yeah, busy. You've been busy too, I assume, right? We got a new album coming out, which we'll get to, but I know you play tons of shows and things like that too, so we'll definitely get into that. Before we get into the new album, for those who haven't heard any of your music, this may be tough for you to answer, but what type of music does Andrew David Weber play?
Well, a lot of that would depend on what album you're listening to and then which band it is. But if it's just the Andrew David Weber band, I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything, but I would say it always comes back to being rock-based. I actually have this funny thing where I'll like submit my albums for reviews or something, or put out a music video, and I get all this attention for the one song that the music video is for, or the song that I sub for review. But then I'll send it to like a country station because I've got a country song, and they're like, well, we can't promote your album because it's not really a country album. We listened to it and heard a bunch of thrash metal, so it's not going to work. We're sorry. And I'll be like, oh man, and I've had the same thing happen where I released the metal song, and then, hey, I bought your album and there's just a bunch of country stuff on here. You know?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you guys will get used to it. I'm just going to keep releasing music the way that I do, and hopefully people will grab onto it because I like having fun with it. And it does flow in a weird way. Like, I'm not trying to throw, curveballs every 2 seconds. I try to make cohesive records, but that are also fun for me that I don't get bored with. Like, my mood changes sometimes on the drive into the studio. I'll be like listening to Megadeth, and then I'll like, all right, well, I've been doing this for half the drive. Let me just throw on some Ed Sheeran quick or something. Right. And then it makes a really weird result when I get there because I'm in both modes,
And you listen to wide range of music, I guess, too. Fan of it all?
Yeah. People always ask me, like, what's your favorite? And that changes all the times. I have, like, two consistent favorite bands, which are Alice in Chains and Coheed and Cambria. If you ask me on any day, any year, anytime, whatever, I'm going to say one of those two bands and then, like, three other bands that vary. Queen usually makes their way in there somewhere in the top 5. And I think that might be where some of that sporadicness comes from, too, because if you listen to Queen records, they jump a lot.
Yeah. And you've got that vocal range, too. You sing a lot of low stuff. You sing a lot of high falsetto stuff. So it's the same journey as the album. Your voice kind of makes the same journey, I feel like.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because, like, sometimes that'll just be, like, me getting tired midway through the day. And I'll be like, I want to sing something in the lower register, and see what happens. There's a song on my new record that was like that. Originally, the whole thing was way up high, and it's track 2 on the new one, on the Gift of Movement. I ended up singing it way down low for half of the song until I was ready to jump up again, just because I had been singing all day.
Right.
And I liked the way that turned out, so I kept it.
So how many tracks do you record that get thrown away and never get used again?
None. I don't throw. You
always
away.
Find a way to use it somewhere somehow.
Yep. And that's why we talked about it a little bit before the interview. One of the songs on this record I wrote when I was 14 years old. If anything, that song has become 3 separate songs by now. I just took pieces of like the old version. I'm like, oh, that doesn't really fit with this, but this sounds good here.
Sure.
And then that other part that didn't fit, I didn't just throw it away. I was like, oh, it fits over here. So the bulk of the song was written when I was 14, but then a little bit when I was 22, and then like a little bit a couple months ago.
So going back to young Andrew David Weber, so what's like a short version of your history? Because you've been playing music since you were pretty young, right?
Yeah. Basically, when I was like 3 or 4 years old, my parents got me this little acoustic guitar just to kind of beat around on. I think one of my uncles got me a drum too. So we had musical instruments around the house, but I don't think I was really sentient enough to appreciate them or like know what was going on with them, but they were always around. And then I started telling people that I was in a band when I was like 8, even though I wasn't. I just wanted one, so I would try to start bands at school. And this one time I started a band. I must have been 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10. And I had started this band, and it got to be that there were like 22 kids in it, because like I just asked everybody in the school, like, do you play any music? And everybody said yes. It turned out we were all lying.
Everybody just wanted to be in a band.
Yeah. So I had lyrics, and I could play a couple guitar chords. And then what really happened, what really set it off, was there was this ad in the paper for music lessons in town. And my mom found it and asked if any of us kids wanted to take music lessons. And my sister said, yeah, I want to take piano. And I said, yeah, I want to take guitar. My sister ended up quitting piano pretty early on, but that meant there was a keyboard in the house. So I started messing with that.
Right.
And then I went through a few guitar teachers. They probably had commitment issues or something. I don't know. Like one of them, I just started with the guy, and then like he was from the Netherlands. So he just goes, I'm going home one day. And that was it. Like, that's what I remember. You know, it was probably a longer conversation than that. But my 10-year-old brain, that was like, I was like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
We just started. And then there was this other girl, and she had like surgeries all the time. I remember, like, she'd be like, oh yeah, I've got a medical thing. And then that's always unfortunate, because I definitely get that now. I've been in a couple of those scenarios, but I ended up with this guy. I remember his name. His name is Sean Mans. And if Sean Mans is out there anywhere listening to this, thanks, dude.
Right.
Because he was the one who introduced me to like palm muting and playing Metallica songs and like stuff that was fun and not just like
learn this chord progression.
Yeah. Learn these notes, the same notes everybody's been learning. Just start, learn Ode to Joy,
Right.
stuff like that. But yeah, he got me into some cool stuff. I remember playing Ramones songs with him. I remember playing, like Metallica and a bunch of Ozzy Osbourne stuff we were starting to try to do. And then we were using these books, and my mom was like, hey, these lessons are getting a little expensive. Do you feel like you need the lessons? Because it seems like you get through the books by yourself. And I'm like, oh, no, I just like hanging out with this guy.
So this was all guitar?
Yep, that was all guitar.
So you learned guitar before you learned piano?
Yes, I did.
So how many instruments do you play?
I don't know. It's in the 20s. But like, I'm always real careful with that, because there are some instruments that I play really well. Like, I can do session work. If somebody needs a bass track, I'm very confident going in and getting paid to do a bass guitar track. If somebody needs a drum track, same thing, very confident. Now, if somebody wants a cello track, I play cello, but they're going to be sitting there waiting a while for me to get it right.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things. So when people say, how many instruments do you play? It's like, I play like 12 or 13 probably really well. And then I dabble in like 20 something. I probably have 26 different instruments at my house that I know how to do something on.
And on your albums, you record all of it yourself for the most part?
For the most part, yeah. The Voice of Experience, I did all of the instrumentation myself. And that was just because I wanted to start that way. I wanted to like do the Dave Grohl thing,
Yeah.
And it was really important to me that I had one record where it was just me, just to be like, here's my portfolio. Please hire me to do session work, or something. And I don't think that was the goal at the time, but it's definitely come in handy since.
Yeah.
On the Howl of Insanity, I'm like, okay, I did the record, the showboaty, look, I can do it all thing. And now I really want to just jam with my friends. And so I started calling up, like I remember calling up Bill House from Conniption, as well as Andy Martin from Conniption. Basically, we have a song called The Howl, where it's Matt Schutz, who's been playing music with me for like 20 years now. Me, him, and then half of Conniption made this song called The Howl. I want it to be more collaborative. There's a song called Promise Me on there, where a Milwaukee band, Audible Kink, is on there. They're a duo, and I had both of them on for backup vocals. And then Andy Heath and I switched doing leads. So it's a duet that's backed by another Milwaukee band. And then the rest of the instruments on there are just me, but vocally, it's a lot of people.
And how long does it take you to record that? Not even the writing process. How long does it take you to record, since you're doing all of that yourself?
Let's see. It varies, I think. The Voice of Experience, I think we logged like 117 studio hours or something like that.
Wow.
The Howl of Insanity was really, I feel like it came along really naturally, but it was fewer sessions for sure, where we'd like go in for a day and just hammer out a ton of stuff. And then like a couple months later, go in and hammer out a ton of stuff. But I feel like overall, if you were to add up the hours, it would be fewer. That'd be a question for Ryan Coots. He engineered that. So maybe he has like the sessions, on how long each one was. I don't know.
It makes sense that it depends on the record, though.
Yeah.
Even, how complex the songs are, or how many instruments you have going in the songs, or how many tracks.
And there's, there are other things like, songs like How Bad Could It Get from the record The Howl of Insanity. That was really fast because I didn't do it all myself. So I just played guitar and sang as live takes. I did it like 3 times through just to make sure we had one that was usable. And then we just had Thea Voris come in with a cello and play over that. And we're like, what else does it need? Thea, play cello over that again. And then she harmonized her own cello. And we're like, boom.
Yep. Sometimes it just
Done.
clicks. And I'm sure some days it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's so cool. How many bands are you in?
10 at the moment. I only keep like 4 active at a time.
Yeah. So what are your current bands that you're in?
All right. So current bands, and I'll just list the ones because I realize sometimes when I do interviews and I'll talk about all my bands, it'll like oversaturate everything and people won't look up what I want them to. So the bands that I am currently like on the road with and making music with are Part-Time Problems. We just got a Facebook page so people can look up what that's all about. American Progress, which is a punk band. We're playing at the Harley Fest that you and I were talking about earlier.
Yep.
And then, let's see. So Whiskey of the Damned. We just started working on some stuff loosely. And then the Andrew David Weber Band is the one that'll be on tour for like the next 2 months.
And what do you do in each of those bands? Andrew David Weber, obviously, you're singing and guitars.
Yep.
Whiskey, you play drums? Correct?
Drums, yeah. We do this thing like it's like musical chairs. We all switch around. But for about 60% of the show, I'm on drums. And there's a little bit of keyboard work in there too because I put my keyboard next to my drums. So like intros of songs and stuff I'll be playing. But yeah, so drums and vocals. I have a pretty strong vocal duty in all of the bands. In Part-Time Problems, I switch between piano and guitar. We have 3 guitar players, so you don't always need 3 guitar players. So when we don't need 3 guitar players, I play piano.
Right. And then you do some solo events where you hammer out cover songs and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah, and I'm in a cover band too called Mixtape that plays a lot around Milwaukee and Wisconsin in general.
What are I know you play a lot, so I wanted to ask you because you're always playing somewhere. What are some of your favorite venues, and then maybe some of the wackiest situations you played in?
Okay, and favorite venues just anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a couple that I really, really enjoy playing. There is a spot down in New Orleans called Lucky's. I've heard it's changed since I've been there, which it makes me kind of like reluctant to go in because like it's different management and stuff like that. But I can tell you for like 5 years in a row, every time I went down to New Orleans, I would go to Lucky's on St. Charles and either crash an open mic or just like book a last minute show. Or I'd tell them I was coming down ahead of time and then I would just stay down there for a week busking on Royal Street because that was just an awesome setup. Like, it was cool if you hung out there. They're open 24 hours a day, and they're a bar and a laundromat. So like I could do laundry there. Yeah, awesome home base. And then right down the road is a hostel called the Quisby, which is only like $30 a night to stay in. So yeah, I would park over there and then just go busk.
Right.
Street perform or whatever during the day. Maybe play once or twice at Lucky's, and then maybe another venue like Ace Hotel is awesome down there. I'd try to do like one real show and then a couple instances of me just crashing someplace. But New Orleans, I guess, is not so much for venue. It's my favorite city to go play in because if you don't have a venue to play in, you can just go anywhere.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say New Orleans is my favorite city to play in. I base a lot of my tours around food. So like there are a couple bars called O'Brien's Nine Irish Brothers. There are actually 3 of them. They're in Indiana. And one of them is in Lafayette, one's in West Lafayette, and the other is in Indianapolis. The one in Indy is awesome. Shout out to my friend Jason who runs that. I try to play that almost every tour. It's weird that I'm not playing it this tour. Maybe I should just call him and say, hey.
Crash that too. Yeah.
Can I crash your restaurant, man?
Yeah.
But really, I love playing there because, one, they treat me really well, which is always good. You don't want to play somewhere where they don't treat you well. But they also just have one of the best prime ribs that I've ever had. And so, like, yeah, man, I got to go get me some steak.
You got to go play around there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I know you've got good connections to my hometown and close to where the barn is located in St. Louis. I know you like playing down there, and your drummer's from there, right?
Yep. Yeah, and we play San Lou. We used to play San Lou all the time. Whiskey the Damned especially used to play very often. We haven't in a little while now. I think COVID just disrupted everything, you know,
Yeah.
and it kind of changed the flow of things. But we still go down to St. Louis. Like, we still practice at Utopia Records. We actually are going down there. We'll be down there on the 20th. Nowhere that anybody could find us, but
Right.
you know, getting the tour ready. We're doing all our tour prep down there. So,
And what about some wacky places? I
places.
saw that you played at a dog park.
Yeah, man, that was actually super cool.
You love dogs, I guess. Yeah.
I love dogs. I've definitely played some weird events. Okay, so recently I was asked to play as Andrew David Weber, but like in exact words, like at 60%.
What does that mean?
They didn't want my insane energy or like the in-your-faceness of an Andrew David Weber show. They wanted like a quieter, tamer version. I said yes. I'm like, as long as you let me know beforehand, that's what you want. Sure. I'm not out here to be like, no, I'm so punk rock. I have to be here to piss people off. You know, like I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to like really show that I can be.
You had to leave the rhinestone jacket at home for that
right.
one?
Yeah, stuff like that. I had to dress down a little bit, and then you know, I got to do more of my country repertoire that night, and I mean, it was fun for me. Really, it was awesome. The funny thing was about it, they requested to play one song specifically, and it was Born to Be Wild, and I just thought, that's so funny. You want me to not be wild?
Not be wild and play.
You want me to play Born to Be Wild?
Well, Wild in when did that come out? Early 60s?
Yeah.
Something like that. Wild in the 60s was a little different.
I mean, and this was an older crowd and stuff like that. So, I mean, they knew what they were booking for. They were just like, hey, man, we want you. They love your voice. They're just like, can you get them to settle down a little?
Right. That's hilarious.
So that's what I would call a wacky one.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a great history, a lot of great stories to tell, and diverse too. I know you've played with tons of other musicians, toured with people, and I know that's added to everything to where you are now. So let's talk about the gift of movement. What is the gift of movement?
So that is a loaded question, but the reason the album is named The Gift of Movement is for two reasons, really. Sonically, I bumped the low end of this album way more than my other albums. I mixed the bass on top of things this time because I really wanted the record to move. In some sense, it's literal. Like, I want you to like feel like dancing or something when you hear some of these songs. And then contextually, it takes on more of a deeper meaning, I guess you could say. In the context of how the songs are written, a lot of them are about moving past things, or like getting over past traumas, or like, you know, leaving things behind. It's like literally the gift of moving on, being able to let go of whatever that crazy thing that happened to you was.
That's awesome. And you were nice enough to give the barn an advance copy, so we've listened to that a couple times through. I can say that we really, really enjoyed it. We talked about the diversity of your tracks on your records already. This one is definitely the same thing. So was it any different in the writing process as far as some of your other ones?
Yeah. There were differences. So this one I made with Jason Otto at Beyond Audio, which is in West Bend, Wisconsin. And kind of like going back to the Voice of Experience, that was just Jeff Hamilton and myself in a room for over 100 hours or whatever we said it was. With this one, it was that, but with a different guy. That being said, we used a lot of different equipment. Everybody's got their own tastes. As far as being similar to any of the records before it, it would be more similar to that Voice of Experience than Howl of Insanity. Whereas, like, we used a lot of older analog technologies to record this record, which is one of the big reasons I wanted to push it to vinyl. It's like meant to be listened to it
On vinyl?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, so, you know, we still mixed it down in Pro Tools, but everything that was used to track it, you know, has been around a while.
Sure.
So yeah, that right there kind of set it a different vibe. You know, you've got these different amp tones. You're going to play differently. You're going to feel differently. You're going to hear things back differently.
And I think I picked up on some of that, like even, and maybe there were some after effects there. I know the first track is pretty upbeat. It's almost like your voice has some distortion on it a little bit.
Yeah.
70s kind of vibe or something.
So that is a Neumann U67 vintage microphone.
Okay, so we're using older hardware even.
Yeah. I think it might have been a recreation, but that's what that was that we were going for. We actually A/B and C'd some microphones. You know, we were very particular about what we used. And we tried out a couple different things, but that was what we kept coming back to, just for that bite. It kind of breaks up naturally. That's what you're hearing. It's not so much a distortion, but it's like how tube guitar amps will naturally break up at a certain volume. That's kind of what was going on with this microphone and the preamp that we had it running through. And I am a yelly guy. I like to yell. And so when I would yell, it would be the perfect amount of like not ugly distortion, but like a crisp distortion that's the sound we're going for. So my voice is very clear when I'm singing down at my speaking level. And then it's just got that, I would liken it to a lot of 70s tracks that have that same kind of like, it's a nice warmth. And then there's just this bite when they start yelling.
We talked about it being similar to the other albums. What makes it different?
What makes it different? Stylistically, even though all of my albums are different styles, this one explores some new territory. I'll go back to the fact that it is bass driven instead of, driven by lead guitar solos the whole time or like intense lead guitar parts. There's piano on it, but the piano takes a back seat and then just pops through when it needs to shine. But the main instrument is bass. I wrote a lot of these songs from the bass up instead of like I usually do the drums up. This time I was like, no, I want the bass to punch like this, and then the drums will be second to that. So rhythmically, it was done almost backwards from what I normally do. And that's why there's like all this space in there, or like spots where the instrumentation is very sparse and it's just like the bass guitar and vocals, like that first track. For most of that track, it's just like the drum beat, the bass guitar, and the vocal carrying it, and then everything comes in for the chorus.
Yeah.
So dynamically, it's a lot different.
It's really, really enjoyable. There's also some guest appearances on it, correct?
Yeah. So my friend Mackenzie, she's on there. And that was kind of cool because the song was just about done. And I was like, it just sounds a little bit dry. It needs some like vocal harmony. And then I was like, no, it needs somebody who sounds kind of like June Carter, like that kind of higher, a higher pretty lady voice is what it needed. And I was like, I know somebody who could do that. And it turned out she had never been in a studio before. So that was interesting for her too. And it ended up sounding great. So she's on one of the tracks. And then I did all of the instrumentation except for the strings on this one. So like I said, cello I can play, but I'm going to be there for 100 million hours trying to get it right. And you don't want that when you're in the studio trying to make a record and get it out on time. So Thea Voris and Marco Conley. Marco Conley plays with me in Whiskey of the Damned. So he and I have a good jam vibe going throughout that.
Like I said, it's really, really good. I can't wait for people to hear it. So tell us about the release. So when's it coming out and how are we celebrating that?
So we are going to kick off our tour on June 2nd at 6th Avenue Barbecue Pit and Bar in West Bend, Wisconsin. And that will also be the debut of my new band, Part-Time Problems.
Oh, so you're playing a double?
Yep, I'm opening for myself.
Might as well.
Well, the bill is Liam Kyle Cahill, Part-Time Problems, Andrew David Weber. I'm in all three bands. I don't know why I did this myself to kick off a tour because I feel like, that next morning is like, all right, so we got to go do it again because we're actually
You're leaving the next morning?
Yeah. And we are the first three bands at Forest Fest, which is killer. I've never actually managed to land myself 3 spots on the same festival before. So
where is Forest Fest?
That's in Morris, Illinois.
Okay. So that's on the way. So what you're heading east, I think?
Yeah. So we had a couple days in between and I don't like days off. So we're like, I wouldn't really call it backtracking. After that, we're headed to Joliet, which would put us back west by 30 minutes. And then we're shooting out to Columbus, Ohio. And then we are in Bradford, Pennsylvania for 2 nights. And then we are in Morgantown, West Virginia at the Art Party. And then Wytheville, Virginia after that. And then I think we shoot up to somewhere in Maryland. And then I know one of the last shows on the tour is up in Cambridge, New York. So,
ooh, nice.
Yeah, so we'll be going a lot all over.
Right.
A lot of eastern half of the country.
Yeah, so if you're close to any of those, go check those guys out. And all that should be, where can people find you on social media?
So that's the thing. That's as much of the tour as I can remember off the top of my head. I'm really bad at that. So my website is just andrewdavidweber.com. So my name, as you see it spelled on whatever post you saw this on, just that.com, www.andrewdavidweber.com. And you will find all the stuff there. And my website is way better at explaining it than I am. So
right on. And obviously people can follow you on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. June 2nd, it is The Gift of Movement. Andrew David Weber, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again.
All right. Have a great tour and we'll talk to you soon.
Right on.
down to the house. You lost control of your demon, wanting to give up the fight. Then you found solace in something you knew wasn't right. Your mind is endlessly screaming. You're always hitting a wall, and you use him to distract you from it all. But you hang on to the notion that you can change him as he's changing.